These are notes about area and perimeter. This is a topic that you may have seen in Math 1. You probably also saw at some point in middle school, but just to remind you, since area and perimeter is such an important topic that we're going to build upon this year. So just a reminder, area is the space a two-dimensional object takes up. And what we mean by two dimensions is there are two lengths involved. So if I draw this general rectangle, and I call this length and this side width, the space it takes up is what gets kind of colored in here. And the formula for the area of a rectangle is length times width. So let's look at an example. I'm going to use the same example for both the area and perimeter. So I'm going to draw it over here on the side so that we can see it for both of them. You'll have to excuse my artistry. That was not a topic that I necessarily excelled at. So if I'm trying to find the area, what I will always do is I will always start by writing the general formula. And this allows me to communicate to anyone who's reading my work, because this is about communication, that I do understand what the formula is, that I know that formula. And let's put some centimeters here, so 4 centimeters by 11. So I then fill in the numbers. I have a 4 and an 11, so I have 4 centimeters and 11 centimeters. And then I simplify. So I know that 4 times 11 is 44. And then I know that centimeters, if I have x times x, it's x squared. So centimeters times centimeters is centimeters squared. And then lastly, I just reiterate that I'm finding the area of this rectangle. Now, perimeter is the distance around the edge of an object. It's not two-dimensional, it's just length. So if I have the perimeter, this length, width, length, I really am just going around and adding up. It's almost like I put a cut in the rectangle and stretch out the lines here until I make one long line. And if I were to do that, I would have an L plus a W plus an L plus a W. So we say that the perimeter for a rectangle is L plus W plus L plus W. Now that can actually be simplified a couple of different ways. One way is I can call that 2L plus 2W. The other is that I can say it's 2 times the quantity of the length plus the width. So that's the perimeter of a rectangle. And again, either of these three forms is perfectly fine when you are filling in. So now, here, I'm going to just draw an arrow to say that that's going there and an arrow to say that's going there. So I prefer the last one. I don't know why, it just makes sense to me, but it's not the one you have to use. You can use any of the three that you see up there. So I'm going to start again by writing my formula. Again, this is about communication, and I want to be sure that whoever is reading this, be it my teacher or my friend or my mom, can totally see what is happening with this. So I now fill into my formula my length and width. And because addition is commutative, meaning I get the same answer if I add 11 plus 4 or 4 plus 11, it doesn't actually matter which you label length and width. And the same thing for the multiplication. I can write these in either direction. 4 times 11 is the same as 11 times 4. So I simplify in my parentheses first. I find that to be easier than distribution of multiplication over addition. And then I do my last bit of multiplication. So the perimeter of the rectangle is 30 centimeters. If I were to go back and I could you can see this, that if I added the centimeters in, when I have 11 centimeters plus 4 centimeters, it's 15 centimeters. It's not getting multiplied, it stays a length, which means I'm adding up the various pieces.